Hey, so this morning we're going to talk about your college essay. You've got to write one. That's the first main assignment in the class. Like I said, I'm going to get a snapshot of your writing abilities, your organizational abilities, but I'm also going to get to know you a little bit. It's a good assignment. I gave that big old narrative lecture. You heard about me and who I am. I want to know a little bit about you and who you are, and this is a good way for me to get a sense of that. But it's also something that's really important. If you're going off to college next year, um, someplace that requires a college admissions essay, you'll have to write one of these things. And why not do it now in class where you can get some feedback from me and some help along the way with the process. If you're somebody who's not going to college or going to Nova or someplace that doesn't require a college essay, we can replace it with a narrative writing assignment. Narrative is one of those SOL requirements. You need to be able to write that anyway, and it's very similar. So we can sort of take the college part out of it, and you can just email me or come to my office hours, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and get you squared away. And you'll still get the assignment. This is going to be a summative grade, so it's kind of a big deal. You want to pay attention to that. Remember, we have about 4 summative grades, a quarter. Each one is 20% of your grade. You'll have an opportunity to do a revision on this if you turn it in on time and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll have opportunities to improve this and grow it. But let's just talk about the college essay and what it means and what it looks like. So first off, you're going to college. And you're sending in your college application. What are the most important elements of that? Why is a college essay important? Why should you take your time and effort to work on it? Well, the 2 biggest things in your college application, are your, my number's on, your SAT score and your ACT score and your GPA. These 2 are kind of the big ones and the standalones, and the college essay is sort of your 3rd tier. So I'm going to make a gross oversimplification here, but hopefully this helps you understand how it works. So like you got your SAT or ACT score, whatever that happens to be. Let's say it's a 1200 or whatever. And then you've got your GPA, whatever that is. You can still alter it by doing very well your senior year, but you've got 3 years weighing against you, either holding you down or lifting you up, depending on how you look at it. But let's say your GPA is a 3.0. Essentially what a school is going to do is they have basic admission requirements. And if you haven't reached a certain level on your ACT or SAT, you may not even be considered. If you don't have a high enough GPA, you may not even be considered. But for the sake of argument, a school will essentially rate your SAT score and your GPA on a scale. We'll just say 1 to 10 because that's easy. And then they won't take students who have a combined rating less than a certain amount. So you may not meet minimum entry criteria. If you don't meet minimum entry criteria in terms of your SAT and your GPA, it doesn't matter how good your college essay is, you're not going to magically get in. So let's say you're applying to UVA where, they expect you to have an SAT score and GPA score. If they rate them both on 1 to 10, you can have a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 20. So you might need a combined score of like 17 to manage to meet the minimum criteria to get into UVA. It's a good school. It's hard to get into. And then, they have, I don't know, maybe a freshman class, and I'm just making up numbers here because I don't know, but they have maybe a freshman class of 1,500 or something like that, that they can accept, but they have, I don't know, 3,500 applicants who meet the minimum criteria. Well, now they need to decide what 1,500 of those 3,500 applicants they're going to take into their program. And how do they do that? The college essay. So there are other things in your application, like your extracurriculars, which I would say probably sit in 4 here, and whether you completed your application and completed it correctly, that they can use to sort of call out who to take and who not to take. But the college essay is a pretty big deal because the college essay is where you get to say to the prospective college that you're applying to, who you are as a person, what you're about. You have to sell yourself. Why should they take you onto their campus? So essentially, it's a lot like going back to recess in 3rd grade or 4th grade, where you're going to play kickball or something, and everybody lines up, and the captains pick who's going to be on their team. They look at that lineup and they're like, okay, which ones do I think are going to benefit my team the most? And they pick. It's like the college draft, or the NFL draft, or something like that, where they're trying to pick the ones who are the best, who are going to help their school. And you need to make your essay make you somebody who's attractive, who stands out from the line, who doesn't look like just like everybody else in the crowd, and makes the college admissions officers who are reading this essay say, I pick you. I pick you. And that's what you have to do. So how do you write an essay that does that? Maybe it seems overwhelming at this point, but it's really not, hopefully not as hard as you think. And once you get down to it, you'll be able to do it. So the first question you want to think about is, who's your audience? Who is reading your essay? And the answer to that question is relatively simple. It's college admissions officers. They're generally relatively young, often graduates of the university, and they're the ones who are looking through the application essays and trying to shuffle people into piles. And so what are these people looking for? If you're writing for college admissions officers, what kind of people do they want to bring into their university? And this is the part where I get a little cynical and jaded. You got to think to yourself, what does the university want out of you as a student? What do they want you to be? Who do they want you to be, both at school and after school? And so you think to yourself, what is the goal of the university? Well, first thing the university is looking for is its reputation. Right? It wants people who are going to be successful, both when they're on campus as students, but also when they go off into the greater world. So they're looking to have alumni who create a positive chain of events and reputation for their school over the years. Also, they want people who are going to be successful and make a lot of money and give money back to the school. Maybe have a residence hall named after them or whatever. So they're definitely looking, I'd say, first and foremost for people who are reputable and successful. They don't want people who are going to make lots of mistakes on campus, get in the newspaper, people who seem to be immature, things like that. So you've got to think about that, the reputation successful. They're also looking for people who will graduate. I mean, that's part of what comes with being successful. A college admissions officer who gets a student who comes on campus and matriculates through the university and graduates in 4 years, they've filled that bed for 4 years. They've guaranteed somebody who's going to pay the school for 4 years. If you get somebody in there who's unsuccessful and they're only in there for 1 year, well, then you have to redo this job every year. So the goal is to find somebody who will graduate. It turns out that your GPA and your SAT scores are good predictors of whether you're going to be successful in school, that you can handle academic loads, that you can write papers, that you can do that sort of work, that you have the basic intelligence for it. Basically the GPA tells them something about either your intelligence or your work ethic, or the combination of the two. But GPAs vary depending on the school you go to. You might go to a school where it's really hard to get a high GPA because the classes are difficult. You're at some very high-powered private school, or the schools in Northern Virginia might be leveled differently than the schools in Southern Virginia or in Pennsylvania or whatever. So especially you go to a small Christian school or a private school where the grades are inflated or something like that, and so the GPA, it tells the admissions officer something, but we have the SAT as a leveler. If we give literally everybody who's coming to the school the same test, and we look at the scores on that test, we can tell whether the GPA is their innate intelligence or their work ethic, or some combination of the two, because what you get on the SAT says something about your level of skills and abilities, and that combined with the GPA gives them a little bit of a snapshot. But what differentiates you from everybody else who's similar to you in those scores is your essay. And so a lot of times what they do is they give you these really open-ended essay prompts. And I'm going to show you you've already seen them if you looked at the assignment. The Common App essay prompts. But some colleges go so far as just to say, you write me a personal choice essay of 500 words. You can write about whatever you want, and they do this to give you a lot of room to make bad choices. Choices that show that you're immature, choices that show that you won't be successful, choices that show that maybe there's other people to choose. So a lot of what the college essay does is it gives you room to fail. It gives you room to make foolish choices. Like you're applying to a university and you write your essay about how much you love the beach because the university's on the beach. Great. That tells them that you don't really care about the education. You care about the location, which doesn't say much for your responsibility, for your maturity, for your decision-making process. Why are you going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this thing so you can be at a 4-year beach vacation? That's just a example that I throw out there. Sorry if you hear a lot of background noise. I'm right next to the laundry room down here. It is what it is. So you want to think about who your readers are, college admissions officers, what they're looking for, what's going to make them pick you out of that lineup. And then you've got to show yourself and sell yourself. This is difficult. We've been taught modesty from an early age, and then you go off on this college essay and you have to suddenly sell yourself, but you don't want to sound arrogant. You don't want to sound cocky. You don't want to come across in a negative way. So you've got to tread this fine line between showing who you really are, but only the parts of you that you really are that would appeal to a college admissions officer, sounding confident and trying to sell yourself, but without coming off as arrogant or cocky. And that's sort of the tricky part of it. So generally speaking, and I'll go over 2 different models for writing these essays. We'll do the personal narrative model, and we'll do the sort of business letter model. And you can work with either one of those models that you so desire, or you can talk to me and try and come up with one. I also suggest looking up ones online. I've got 3 college essays in this module that you can look at as examples, and those will help you out. But you can go online and you can look up successful college application essays. What I would suggest is you avoid the gimmicky ones. Don't try and do the ones that take a wild risk. The problem with taking a wild risk is that it's so much easier to fail at those than it is at something more standard. And so sometimes they're wildly successful, but most of the time they're wild failures. So if you've got some schools that's a major reach for you and you want to try and push yourself over that edge with something risky, okay. But I wouldn't recommend it for this assignment, certainly. So anyway, you got to show yourself and sell yourself. You got to write in your own voice. You got to write about real things that happen to you. You got to be authentic. And you've got to pick very carefully, cherry pick your attributes, your skills, the things that show you in a good light. So let me throw this on here. One of the things to think about, and I'm going to see if I can move this up so we get a better view. One of the things to think about is what qualities you possess that would appeal to a college admissions officer. And I just sort of brainstormed this list in about 30 seconds. But, they're looking for people who are responsible. Responsible people are going to take their work seriously. They're going to, graduate in 4 years and keep up with their responsibilities. They're looking for leaders. Every university talks about how they're creating the leaders of the next generation. Well, the university doesn't magically create leaders. They have people come in who are inherently leaders, and they try and improve their abilities that they already possess. They want people to come in who have those leadership skills, and then they train them to go and be that next generation of leaders. They want intelligent people. I mean, clearly that's why they have the SAT and the ACT test, which is sort of like a test of your academic, a snapshot, if you will, of your academic intelligence and abilities at a particular point. They want people with a strong work ethic, people who are determined to be successful and improve. People who have a focus in their life. You know what you want to do with your life. You're determined to get there. This college is a step on the way. They're interested in compassionate people who have drive and are ambitious and want to achieve things. They know what their life goals are. They want mature, creative, inventive, outside the box thinkers, people who are curious, who have a natural innate curiosity, who are resilient and overcome setbacks, who are enthusiastic and persistent and resourceful and tenacious and diligent. I just threw a bunch of words that are adjectives that describe positive people down on this sheet. And there are plenty of positive adjectives that don't necessarily help you out in going to college. Hopefully all of these ones are ones that do, but like, let's say you have a great sense of humor. That's a positive attribute, sure. Nobody's going to take you to college because you have a great sense of humor. Same thing with being gregarious. Like you're great. You can have conversations with anybody. You're outgoing. Doesn't necessarily translate into success in college. So you want to think about who you are. And my suggestion at this point, at the end of this lecture, is to try and identify 3 of your strong attributes. 3 attributes, outstanding qualities of you as a person that are the kinds of things that college admissions officers would be impressed by. And you can't make these things up. They have to actually be attributes that you have, that you possess. You can't really force them, or else the essay comes across as forced. It doesn't come across as real. So, when this lecture ends, just sit back and think to yourself, like, what attributes do I have? What attributes do I possess? If you can't think of them, because it's hard to sell yourself. It's hard to think about yourself in this positive way. We're so used to criticizing ourselves and finding our own faults that sitting back and finding the positive attributes is a difficult task. But if you struggle with that, go talk to your parents, talk to your friends, go call somebody or text somebody and try and think about what attributes they would apply to you, and then think about whether that's accurate or not. So just make a list. And when you come into the next lecture, come into it with 3 excellent qualities that you have as a human being that would appeal to a college admissions officer. And we'll try and build your essay off of that. If you have questions, leave them down in the chat or write them down and bring them to the Zoom, and we will sit down and talk through them and hopefully get you in a position where you're feeling comfortable moving forward. But this is just an overview of that college essay. Last couple things, and then I'm going to call this done. You have 500 words. A well-developed paragraph is like 200 words. I think the Common App gives you up to 650. So you've got something like 3 paragraphs that you can write to hook these college admissions people. That means you don't have room for fluff. You don't have room for a lot of wasted words. You also need to hook them right into your story, so you kind of have to start with action. You want to get them inside your head, seeing you not as a number, but as a person with feelings and ideas, somebody that they care about. So you have to make yourself relatable. You have to make yourself somebody that they care about over the course of the essay. The really good essays also don't lose track of the fact that they're writing a college admissions essay. So yeah, they tell a story, they highlight these qualities, but by the end, they're conveying how these qualities that the applicant has apply to academics, apply to a college setting. And so, a good essay is going to start out with dropping the reader into a situation, lots of description, get them invested in you as a person. Maybe not have a thesis statement, but have a real strong core statement in that first paragraph. But by the end, they're going to be talking about the next step, or you're going to be talking about the next step in your life and how you're going to get there, and how college is the driving force to move you forward. So you want to go through this progression and stay on topic. So they're testing not only your ability to prove that you're somebody they want to have at college, but they're going to be looking at your writing ability. They're going to look at your language ability. What kind of words are you using? Do you have a strong vocabulary? Do you not? Are you using that correctly? They're going to be looking at your organizational skills. Can you stay on topic? Can you craft a concise and moving essay? And the strong essays are going to have strong writers, strong vocabulary, strong organizational skills, and they're going to pick a powerful event or moment in the writer's life. So I'm going to leave you with that and let you read a couple example essays, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about writing a personal narrative style essay and brainstorm some ways to do that. And we'll also talk about writing a business style essay, which we'll bring that in at the end. So again, if you have questions, drop them in the comments, send me an email, put them on Zoom, and we'll try and address them. Thanks.